On this road, far from the city's noise, something happened that still haunts the witnesses. A woman died. Her dog sat by her coffin day and night. Neither food nor rain nor cold could make it leave. Everyone thought it was just grief. But when a group of bikers passed by, they noticed something was wrong with the dog. On an empty road, bathed in the gray light of an overcast sky, a pregnant woman walked slowly. Her face was pale, her lips cracked from the dry wind, and her eyes stared at a single point ahead, as if she had long stopped seeing where she was. It seemed she hadn't eaten in a long time. Her fingers clutched her stomach, not just a gesture of motherhood, but as if desperately trying to hold on to the last thing she had left. She walked slowly, as if her legs were filled with lead. Each step echoed with pain, but she didn't complain, didn't call for help, didn't stop. In her hand, she tightly gripped a scrap of paper, perhaps an address or someone's name. Maybe it was her last hope or a reminder of why she was still holding on. The road was empty. No cars, no people, only the rustle of the wind and the occasional cry of crows in the distance. No one knew who she was, where she came from, or why. She was alone. But her gaze said one thing. She was returning home, or to a place where she hoped to find some protection. Perhaps she had been kicked out. Perhaps she had escaped, or maybe she was simply alone in this world and moving forward was the only choice left. Darkness began to gather beyond the horizon. The wind grew sharper. Ahead there was nothing but emptiness. Yet she kept walking, knowing that if she stopped, she wouldn't make it. She didn't cry. Her tears had run dry long ago. All that remained was silence within and the voice of the baby in her womb. And that voice, it seemed, whispered, "Keep going. Don't give up. We're almost there." Her steps grew slower. Her legs faltered. Her breathing became labored. At times, she paused, leaning forward as if trying to keep her balance, but with each step, her body obeyed less and less. Her face glistened with sweat. Her eyes grew unfocused, as if the world around her was blurring. Clutching her stomach, she exhaled heavily and froze for a moment. Then she tried to take another step. She couldn't. Her legs trembled, and she stumbled sharply over a stone on the roadside. Her cloak billowed in the wind, and her body collapsed, limply onto the cold ground. At first, she tried to prop herself up on her elbows, but she had no strength left. Her face pressed against the damp grass. Her breathing grew faint, almost imperceptible. She could no longer move. There was absolute silence around. No cries, no footsteps, no distant hum of an engine. Only the wind rustling through the tall, dry grass and the whisper of lonely leaves swirling in the air. It was a strange, desolate place, as if forgotten by all. And in that place, she lay motionless, clutching her stomach with one hand and still tightly holding the crumpled scrap of paper in the other. Voiceover. Her strength was gone. She fell. And there was no one nearby. No passers-by, no cars, no chance for rescue, only the cold earth and an indifferent sky above. Time passed. Minutes stretched like an eternity, each one potentially her last. The silence hung heavily over the road, dense and unsettling. The wind smoothed the grass as if draping the earth in a veil. The woman lay still, her breathing barely noticeable, her fingers losing their grip on the scrap of paper. In this lifeless calm, amid the emptiness and indifference, a faint rustle broke the silence. A shadow emerged from the bushes at the road's edge. At first, it was barely noticeable, but with each step, it became clearer. It was a dusty brown German shepherd, thin, with weathered fur and intelligent, wary eyes. Its movements were slow, cautious, as if it sensed something significant had happened. The dog's nose hovered close to the ground. It sniffed the air until it stopped a few steps from the woman. The dog didn't bark or rush forward. It simply stood, staring directly at the motionless figure. The shepherd's eyes were attentive, as if they held understanding. It took a step forward, then another, lowered its head, and quietly sniffed the woman's hand before sitting beside her, never taking its eyes off her face. Voiceover. But someone did notice her. Not a human, a dog, a stray accustomed to living alone. But in that moment it became something more. A witness, a protector. A hero who came not for reward, but because its heart said, "Help is needed here." The shepherd didn't leave. It stayed by her side, scanning the road and occasionally nudging her with its nose, as if checking if she was still breathing. Then it stood, turned, and suddenly bolted into the bushes, as if it knew where to run, or to whom. The shepherd quietly approached the woman and began cautiously sniffing her face. It nudged her gently, as if trying to wake her. The woman didn't respond. The dog sat beside her, waiting, but then stood again and began to bark. Loudly, desperately, its barks echoed down the road like a call for help. It began circling the woman, moving closer, then darting back, each movement an attempt to draw attention, as if it knew time was running out. Voiceover. It did what not every human would dare. It stayed and fought for her life as best it could. In the distance, a dark speck appeared on the horizon. It was a car moving along the road. At first it seemed far away, but it gradually drew closer. The driver wasn't in a hurry. He couldn't see what was happening on the roadside, but the shepherd's sharp, piercing barks finally reached his ears. He slowed down, listening. The barking continued, relentless. The man in the driver's seat squinted and looked toward the sound, and then finally he saw them. The woman lay on the ground, and beside her stood the shepherd, barking urgently, almost without pause. The driver immediately pulled over, leapt out of the car, and ran to the woman. He knelt beside her, checking her condition. The dog stayed close, watching his every move. Voiceover. Thanks to the dog's barks, help finally arrived. The ambulance came quickly. The woman was carefully loaded into the vehicle and taken to the hospital. The doctors worked efficiently, checking her condition, hooking up IVs, monitoring her closely. The woman was still conscious, but looked exhausted and frail. She lay on the stretcher, barely opening her eyes, trying to understand where she was and what was happening. After a few minutes, a doctor examined her stomach and quietly told his colleagues, "Everything's okay. The baby is safe. Just exhaustion and dehydration." She was lucky. She heard those words, and a faint but grateful smile flickered in her eyes. It was the relief she had been waiting for. Soon she was in a hospital room, surrounded by the care of doctors, with sunlight streaming through the window. Voiceover. She was one step away from disaster, but she was saved. When it was all over and the woman began to recover, attention turned back to the shepherd. It continued to stand by her, sighed. Its mission was complete. It had saved the woman. And now, with the danger past, its life was about to change. The driver, who had first rushed to help, took the dog home. He couldn't leave it on the streets, where it had lived alone and in hardship for so long. It deserved a better life. He fed it with care, looked after it. Day by day, the dog grew more confident and calm, adjusting to its new home. It no longer roamed the streets or scavenged for food in trash bins. Now it had its own corner, a soft bed, and a person who loved it. A few days later, it was given a name. He called it Rex, in honor of its courage, in honor of it becoming a hero. Voiceover. The dog that was once homeless now had a name and a family. The camera slowly zooms in on the woman sitting on a couch in a cozy room. In her arms is a newborn baby, peacefully sleeping. Beside her, with its head resting on her lap, is Rex. The dog gently nuzzles her hand, and the woman, smiling, strokes its warm fur. The baby's tiny fingers brush against the dog's paw, and the scene is filled with quiet harmony. The woman looks at the dog with gratitude in her eyes. She, like her child, was now safe. Rex, her protector, her loyal companion. Her life had changed completely, and in that moment she realized that fate had given her not only a new beginning, but also a new friend.